Hello and welcome. My name is Rob, and today I'm gonna talk about Dark Souls 2. This
You
isn't
will
really a
die.
review, this is more
That
like
much is certain.
a talk, my
Death
opinion, my
will define
experiences
your
with the
journey.
game,
It will
and so
follow you,
forth.
always
I
close
played
behind,
around 600
your
hours of it,
only true companion.
more
But
or
it will
less,
change you. You will be
and
something less than
yeah, I
human,
did play a lot of
but
the other
more
Souls
than
games
mortal.
too, like
You will
about the
become
same number of hours
dark.
for Dark Souls 1. I played
And
like
once the
200 to
darkness has
300 of
consumed
Dark
you,
Souls 2 and so
your
on.
journey may truly
So I
begin.
would this in the game. I don't know what the exact number is, how many there are in total, but you will find at least one of the Dark Souls 2 bosses on it. And that's an achievement, like I said, that's amazing. And that alone will tell you that the game isn't trash, that the game isn't bad. That alone can tell you it. Like there are things that they changed in Dark Souls 2, like for example the S2 system. In Dark Souls 1 it was like you get to the bonfire, you get 5 Estus flasks. You upgrade the bonfire, you get 10 Estus flasks, and so on, and it goes to 20. So you upgrade your bonfire, you get 20 Estus flasks. But in Dark Souls 2, it was different. You had to find the shards. The shards were placed all around the world. You can miss them. Like for example, the first shard you get in Majula, the hub world, where there is a well and a rock sitting on on the on the well. You have to hit the rock falls into the well and it pulls up the S2 shard. So you had to actually find them. Some were easy to find, some were not that easy. So yeah, they did good changes too, and you can see the changes to this date. Like like I said with the Estus flask system, you have in Elden Ring you have to find the golden seeds. If you find them, you can upgrade your number of healing your Estus flasks. Well, they are called something else, but you know what I mean. And so they did do really good changes too that still persist to this date. And for another example, what I really loved was the dual wielding system because you had the power stance. If you took two compatible weapons, like let's say two two claymores or two straight swords, and you did the power stance attack, which was L1 I think instead of blocking, uh, you got to strike with both weapons at once, and that's amazing. You still have it to this day, that system, the power stance, this system. At least they in Dark Souls 3, I think they took it out or at least I didn't really care about it. But they have it again in Elden Ring, so it was good. People really loved it. There were a lot of good changes, but of course there were some bad changes too. I think, yeah, like how they screwed with the rolling. You had a stat that dictates how many iframes you get, or a stat that dictates how fast you can drink your flasks. And you have to level that state, of course, because if you don't, you can basically throw away your dodge roll and take just a big shield in hand, because why roll if you don't get enough iframes to dodge it? Or at least it's that hard to dodge it. Or at least why dodge if you can parry? I mean, yeah, you get the idea. So, yeah, of course they changed the health system too. Um, if you died, you didn't you didn't get to be hollow, full hollow from the first time dying, but it was a process. You died once, you hollowed a bit. Visually, you were somewhat hollowified, and you lost 10% of your max HP. And then you died again, it cut at another 10% of you were visibly more hollowified, and so on till you only had half of your HP left, and you were totally just a walking corpse, looking at least like a walking corpse. And I think it was crazy, it was great, it was amazing. I really loved that system. It was lore very, very, very lore friendly, because all the hollows are very lore friendly system, because if you know somewhat of the story, you know that people can die in that world, and if they do, they lose part of themselves, and they die over and over and over again, and that's how they become hollows, because they're they're losing parts of themselves. And yeah, I really liked that system. The pity they didn't do it to the next one too, and newest one and so on. But yeah, they didn't keep it. But yeah, it is what it is. I really liked it. Of course, they changed things that are rather discussion worthy, or at least makes you ask why. And one of the system is the enemies disappearing. Let's say you want to farm an armor set, like the Alone Knights armor set, the knight samurai looking kinda guys, because you liked it and it's cool, and yeah, it has a small drop rate. What do? You get your farming equipment on and you run at them as long as it takes till you get what you want. The problem here lies in you have like, I don't know, 7 enemies, 6 enemies in a farmable spot. You kill all of them 15 times and then you don't have any more enemies. And I think that's a bad system. It certainly helps people who are struggling, because think about it this way. You go in, kill the enemy, die. You go in, kill the first 2 enemies, die. And you do it like 15 times, you're really struggling to get through the area. And then the 16th time around, there is no enemy left, but the third one who always kills you. So it really helps people struggling with an area that where they're constantly dying. And I think it's fine. certainly, it's fine. It really helps
Oh.
people get through it, explore and see more of the game if they are persistent. But then again, if you want to farm something, the enemy disappears. There is a way to get them back up again. And of course not every enemy disappears. And that way is to simply upgrade your bonfire to New Game Plus. Because you can actually only partially upgrade the world to New Game. You could get into, let's say, I don't know, the castle, yeah, to that specific bonfire. You farmed all the enemies and then you sat down at the bonfire and burned a bonfire as aesthetic or aesthetics. Oh, I don't, sorry for the pronunciation. My native language is actually German, so it's a bit hard for me. But yeah, you burnt that item and you got the bonfire upgraded to New Game Plus. And of course you then had the enemies stronger, but you had the enemies again. So that's how you did it. I believe the most I got was 70 in an area. Yeah, it was something else. I didn't really like it, to be honest. Having your enemies disappear. I think it was a bad idea. But here we are. That's at least my opinion. And of course, durability was a thing. I mean, like a real thing. In the other Dark Souls, in Dark Souls 1, it was like, yeah, you had durability and sometimes you had to repair your stuff because it would break, which was fine. But in Dark Souls 2 it was a completely different thing because things will break if you don't watch out. Like for example the katanas tended to break easily. I think they only had 75 durability max. So after a big area where you fought a lot, they then were nearly broken. And you had to repair them. And there was one weapon though that had to be broken to actually use it. It was a staff with an rock at the top, and it had like 400 durability, and if you broke it, it became a new weapon with new stats, and it was amazing. At least a lot of people liked to use it because it was very strong. So yeah, that's a thing. And talking about weapons, they actually put in a new system. It's called the dual wield system. And you had the power stances, which you still have to this date in Elden Ring. And they were a lot of fun, because a lot of people like to dual wield their weapons. Like, I mean, what game doesn't give you the option to dual wield if it's a melee fighting game? If you have the possibility to fight in melee. Like there are like a lot of people out there who loves it. I'm one of them. So yeah, new they made a new system, the dual wielding system with power stances, and even the collector's edition figure is a dual wielding figurine, well, figure. So yeah, it was great. It was amazing, and you had your normal weapons dual wielding, like I don't know, just your two straight swords, and it was fine. It was fun. You did like I think 20% more damage with the strike or something like that. And yeah, But then again, you had your special weapon dual wielding. Like for example, you had the Smelter Demon, who had an element. The, the first one was magic, I think. The first one was, I think, magic or fire, whatever. Let's say he was fire. And you killed him, and you could make with his soul the Smelter Demon Ultra Great Sword that had a special skill if you used the L2 button, I think it was. He struck down with the weapon and made an elemental explosion, which was great, which did a lot of damage. It was really fun. But in New Game Plus, you got the magical Smelter Demon with the magic affinity element. And suddenly, you had a second Ultra Great Sword with magic explosion damage, because it was the same thing, just not with fire, with magic. Now what will happen if you dual wield them? What will happen is you strike down with both weapons on the ground, you will get a fire and magic explosion. Yes, that's two. And if you hit an enemy with it, in PvP for example, that guy needs to have a lot of vitality and resistances to magic and fire. If not, he's dead. Because you get the strike from the weapon and you get the two explosions in your face. It was, I think, even a meta build for some time because it did just that much damage. And Dual Will made that possible, the new system. Or for example, later on in the DLC, you could get the Dragon Fist, which was a fist weapon. And if you made New Game Plus, you could get a second Dragon Fist. And if you dual wielded said Dragon Fists, you suddenly got this crazy Street Fighter like fighting style. And you can even make a Hadouken with it. It was really fun to use it. It was crazy. It was amazing. Yeah, I really liked it. I certainly did use it in PvP. So yeah, dual wielding was an amazing system. It was a great addition. It was very good. What wasn't so good about the changes, what I didn't like, was the adaptiv adaptability adaptability stat, because it basically dictated how your game will be played. Like, if you didn't have enough adaptability, god damn it, adapt ADP. Let's shorten it. Let's say ADP. Um, if you didn't have enough of it, you didn't get enough iframes in vulnerability frames. And that sucks. Also, your animations will take longer. Like the drinking animation. Estus Flask drinking animation. And what do you need in a fight? Of course, you do two things. You roll to dodge, and you drink your flasks. And if you can upgrade both of them with one stat, you will want to put a lot of points in that stat. Or at least you will have to. And that stat was just, yeah, I think it wasn't really necessary. Because the system beforehand was like, in Dark Souls 1 you had like the weight limits. You had your three weight groups, you had the fast one, the medium one, the middle one, and the heavy one. And fat rolling was it called, the heavy one, where you just rolls for just being able to say, yeah, you can roll. The medium home one was the normal one, the one a lot of people used, and the fast roll was just for these sick uh, fast players that really had balls of steel that like to go low on the defensive stats and more like glass cannons and stuff like that. Or at least people who knew how to push their weight below 25%, which was very hard to do. But yeah, and you certainly did have the same system in Dark Souls 2, like with the fat roll and medium roll and fast roll. But the difference here was your equipment load didn't really dictate how good you would roll, but more like what animation you'd get. Like, and how far you could roll. But the important stat in vulnerability frame stat was dictated by this adaptability stat, which you had to upgrade. And yeah, why do that? It's just I have two things for the same thing. Like why? No. I mean, yeah, whatever. And but talking about the items and so on, the items were crazy fun. Like I said, the Smelter Demon great swords, you had the Moonlight great sword again, you had I don't know, you had like the Dragon Fist, you had the Pursuer's Ultra Great Sword, you had a lot of great weapons, fun weapons, you had the freaking ladle, like a soup ladle with which you could fight. It was crazy. And yeah, armors too. You had like a lot of cool armors, like the Low Knight's armors. You had like I don't know that Predator, Alien vs Predator mask that you could find or get more like. It was it was amazing. You could really do a lot of fashion sold in that game. Even more so after the DLC released. Even more so after the Sins of the Scholar of the First Sin edition came out. Talking about Scholar of the First Sin edition, what it did change was it you had your NPC invaders, like in Dark Souls 1, that just came, right? If you get in an area, and I believe you had to be. Or no, you didn't. I think you could get invaded even if you were hollow. But yeah, if you got it in an area, you got invaded by an NPC, and that's a fixed invasion and so on. Scholars of the First Sin added a new kind of invasion, a forlorn in invasion. You got invaded by these forlorn people. They were like pursuing you. It could be a random invasion, it could be after some time, it could be in any area. It was crazy, you could constantly get invaded by these NPCs. And it certainly did spike up the difficulty, but it was also fun. I really liked it. And of course, they changed the placement of the enemies. Like you got even some new enemies, like these red phantom enemies that you know about exist, but you only see them in Medium Plus normally. In uh, Skull of the First Sin you have red phantom enemies from the beginning. And yeah, they certainly did spike the difficulty up of the game. and not it wasn't incredibly hard or something like that, but it was hard enough. Made more yeah, difficult, and it was fine. I really liked it, and of course they even got you one new boss, one of certainly, but I don't know if they even added some more. But one boss you got, um, which was the scholar himself. You could fight him at the very end and get a new ending and get more lore. Like there were certain parts in the game that you got to where you got an cutscene, and yeah, it was a great addition, I think. Yeah, they really did a good job with that too. Because beforehand it was like, yeah, it was missing some things. And Skull of the First Sin certainly did add to it, or at least made it better, in my opinion. But yeah, all in all, they did a great job. I mean, armor, about the armors, about the weapons, about the rings, about the consumables, they were all useful. You can make really great builds with it. You had your variety. It wasn't just another Souls game. It really had its own soul, its own uniqueness to it. Of course, I didn't like some parts of it, like for example with the branches of yore, which could uh, reverse the stonification on some NPCs. I didn't like them, but then again, it was fine because you did get a lot of branches, like you could find them easily. Some you could find, some you could buy from the beginning. It wasn't really that hard to get your hands on some. But yeah. And of course the enemies in the game were amazing too. Like of course you had like your trash bosses, like you know this boss isn't very good and anyone who fought against him thinks the same. For example, the Covacious demon. It's the fat demon slug thing. This looks like Jabba the Hutt as a frog. And that's just weak. You, yeah, if you die to that thing, dude, what are you doing? You can die to it, so yeah, but still, dude, like, come on. It's really not that hard. Or, for example, the Prowling Magus. Prowling Magus was like, people aren't even sure if he was a boss. If if they should count him as a boss. Because the Prowling Magus was just that. It was a freaking mage that had like a lot of undead surrounding him, and you just could run up to him and strike him down. Like, yeah, wasn't really hard. Of course, they took the Prowling Magus fight in Dark Souls 3 and made it better, because you can see the parallels between the Magus and the Deacons of the Deep. But yeah, that's another thing. That's another story. So yeah. Oh, and the little secret was, I really like the secrets in the game, like the weapon what I said before, the one that you had to break first to get the real weapon. And of course there was Artoria's sword in the game too, but there was a little gimmick, like if you had it in your right hand equipped, it was a normal sword. But if you equipped it in your left hand, like Artorias wielded it, you got his movesets, like the Lion's Claw attack, where you will make the overhead strike with it, and so on. It was. I really liked it. Or for example, you had the windmill that you could burn. Like that whole torch system was fine, I believe. I really liked it because you had all this displacement of braziers, and if you had a torch and if you lighted them up, you suddenly had I don't know, improved the area. Like you could see more, for example, like the dark area where you drop down. Yeah, you really need torches. And yeah, like I said, the torch system was a crazy, was good. I think it was a good addition. They tried something new. They tried making spicing the game up a bit. Like I said, with the windmill, you can miss this part, but all in all, it was like this. Got into this toxic area with all the poisonous stuff and enemies and so on. And if you fight through it, you get to this big windmill where you can go up and down and so on. The thing is, if you found the way to um, the arms of the windmill, which you can miss, but if you found the way to there and had a torch equipped, you could burn the windmill down and get rid of the poison. Not all the poison, but a lot of the poison in that area. And it was a simple system that just, yeah, that was great. Or for example, the same thing goes with the Sinner's Rise. The well, let's say first big enemy in the game, big story enemy in the game that you have to kill to get his soul. Um, you could go into the fight and fight him in the dark, where he was pretty strong. Not unbeatable, of course not, but pretty strong. Or you could run around the fighting arena, get somewhere top, and light up a brazier, and do the same thing on the other side. I think, like you had two braziers you could light up, and it will disturb him in the fight then. Like he would have get blinded by the light because he was sitting all day in the dark. Of course, his eyes were hypersensitive to that. So yeah, you could modify some things in the game, some areas with a simple torch, with lighting some stuff, putting some stuff up or burning some stuff down. And I think it was a great system that they did it. They had the right idea. And yeah, same goes for PvP. Because in Dark Souls 1, From Software didn't really know that, or at least they didn't really think about it, that people might enjoy PvP a lot and would make these fight clubs and so on. And only with the DLC, the Torres DLC, they added the arena mode where you can fight against each other. And of course they did it too in Dark Souls 2, but made it even better. Like you had this matchmaking system where you can fight 1v1s in a covenant and level up and even get some special rewards if you make it to the top. Like I think you had to win 200 times or something in the Brotherhood of Blood arena, like 200 times consecutively in a row, which was crazy by the way. But if you did it, you got some ring that hit your weapon, something like that. It was crazy, it was fun. Yeah. Same thing goes with the game on its own. Like you had this secret ring that you can unlock and get if you played through the game without sitting at the bonfire. Like, think about it for a second. Can you do it? I certainly cannot, but you will get a special ring for that, which was pretty okay, I believe. It was fine, but really liked it that I did that. Like, it gave you replayability for once. Just like New Game Plus, it gave you replayability. New Game Plus was the best kind of New Game Plus that I saw in any Souls game because it added items, it added enemies, it added uh, armor sets, weapons, and so on. You made New Game Plus, for example, only in New Game Plus 2 or 3, I can't remember. You could buy the butterfly set, and if you got the butterfly set, it had a special ability. It had a constant poisonous mist around it, like around you, if you wore it. A constant poisonous mist around you. So yeah, that's a thing. Or some bosses got modified, like for example we talked about the Sinner before. The Sinner had two or at least one, I think. Yeah, one for sure, but maybe two pyromancers that helped him in the fight. Like Invader kind of style. Weak ones, but still. So New Game Plus was certainly worth doing. Just for the fun of it, just to see what got changed, what is different, what new enemies there are. It was very good. I kind of miss it in today's New Game Plus. It's like Elden Ring ones is kind of yeah meh, but whatever. And yeah, that's it. I think for the review. The story was yeah. I talked about the story. Story was pretty well done. It was okay. It wasn't that great, but yeah. Like basically the story involved around you trying to cure your uh undeadness. you you got cursed and you tried to cure it. And yeah. But it did do some really fun things with the story too, like if you get to the castle where you uh move up and you find a picture of the queen that you do meet beforehand or later on, I don't know. You meet the queen at least once and you see a portrait of her, and the portrait, if you stay too close to it, it will curse you. Like that's a little hint for that the queen is, I think Nashara was her name. It's like this abyss thing, undead beast thing, and you will only see it at the end of the game, but you get the hint beforehand by the picture, and you can think to yourself like, oh, what's this? Why is this? But yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed the game. That was it for my review, for my talk. Have a great day. Bye bye.